So it has come out recently that the remake to Resident Evil 4, which is indeed a real thing, it's a project that's in development right now at Capcom as we speak. It has come out recently that this game has been delayed, I believe, up to a year, an entire year, and is going under a major overhaul with its development. And there is a big reason for why this is. And that reason is a change in direction. So originally, the team that was working on this is the Studio M2. And this was founded by someone from Platinum Games, Tetsuya Minami. Now, recently they contributed to the development of Resident Evil 3, the remake. And the problem with the Resident Evil 3 remake was that they cut too much out of the original game, and then they even had features that was in the original Resident Evil 3 that was just randomly missing for, for absolutely no reason in the remake. And clearly the remake for Resident Evil 3 was rushed out the door following the success of the remake to Resident Evil 2. And so the quality control with the remake for Resident Evil 3 was not there. There was other, other criticisms too, like what they did with Nemesis and all that entire situation. So it seems that Capcom is trying to take this in a different direction and do something different with the Resident Evil 4 remake. Apparently, they don't like the direction that M2, Studio M2, was taking the project. What M2 wanted to do is that they wanted to follow the template of Resident Evil 4, the original game, more closely. And this is because of the backlash of Resident Evil 3. However, Capcom in its its Division 1 studio, they want to keep the game's overall direction, but they want to experiment with new features and new mechanics. And so basically what it is that M2, they want to stick more closely with the game and just provide, I guess, an HD, a modern upgrade to the graphics. While Capcom and Division 1, they want to keep the game's overall tone and direction and feel and all that, but they want to experiment a little bit. They want to incorporate changes from the original. So there's two sides of the coin, basically. And the two sides basically tell a different narrative. And either you're going to agree with one or the other. Now, Capcom ultimately is in charge because they are the publisher. As a result of this delay, Division 1 at Capcom will now be the lead on the project. And M2's involvement has been reportedly reduced significantly. Now the latest window for launch is 2023, so it's 2 years basically until we see this game at the earliest, and this would be a significant gap after the remake to Resident Evil 3 and even Resident Evil Village, which is coming out this year. So here's my thoughts on this. Some people are, if you look at the comments for this article, I have one person saying that, if it turns out to be more like the Resident Evil 2 remake, he'll be happy. No cut content, which is funny because if you actually look at the original Resident Evil 2 and then you look at the remake, there is content that was cut from the original game for the remake. But as I stated in the most recent video I uploaded to my channel, the Resident Evil 2 remake isn't great because of the content that was cut from the game. It's great because it retains the tone and the feel and the overall direction of the original game, just presented in a more modernized fashion. But here's the thing about this. Now, some people are suggesting, questioning whether or not Resident Evil 4 even needs a remake, whether Resident Evil 4 is old enough for a remake. Given the fact that the game came out like, what, 15 years ago, over 15 years ago, it can be argued that, yeah, it's about time for a more modernized, updated version of Resident Evil 4. Even though I agree that the game, still holds up. The original game still holds up. You can still go back and play Resident Evil 4 and still enjoy it as is. Fact of the matter is, it's still outdated and it could use an upgrade. And a lot of people have brought up like Code Veronica. I'm assuming. Well, yeah, this person mentioned Code Veronica. Yeah, Code Veronica is definitely a game that could use an update. And considering it's another game with Claire Redfield, I would personally like to see, a remake to Code Veronica. I personally, in fact, would like to see a remake to another remake to the original Resident Evil, the very first game in the series. With Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield in the Spencer Mansion and all that. I would like to see another remake to that, a modern remake. But just on the topic of Resident Evil 4, yeah, it could definitely use an upgrade. So that's, not even a question. It's irrelevant to even ask that at this point in time. Here's the thing. M2, they wanted to just basically do not a remaster, but, they wanted it to be a lazy remake to where all it does is it copies the template of the original game. It doesn't deviate. It doesn't provide anything new. It doesn't fix anything that was wrong with the original game, because Resident Evil 4, as great as it is, and as great as it was, specifically back when it first came out, it's not a perfect game. It does have problems, and just simply doing a remake to where all they update is the graphics, that's something I don't support at all. If you're going to do a remake, you need to fix what was wrong with some of the address some of the issues that was clearly prevalent in the original release. And so, what are some things that was wrong with Resident Evil 4 as a game? Well, first and foremost, it has one of the most annoying and useless AI companions. The character Ashley, the president's daughter or whatever, that Leon is sent to that island or whatever in the first place to retrieve. It's very easy getting a game over because of how useless and dumb the AI controlling Ashley is. And so this game could use an update to where, Ashley could be like Claire or Jill and actually, hold her own. Or, Leon teaches her how to defend herself, gives her a gun, point and shoot. This is something they could do for the remake that would deviate it from the original and, make an improvement over a flaw that was in the original game. Another thing that was wrong with Resident Evil 4 was the villain. I'm not sure the character's name, Salazar, I think his name was, the Napoleon Bonaparte looking dude. Yeah, that character was fucking stupid. There's no denying that. Like I said, that's something that they could improve. Something that they could address for the remake. Another thing is, how are they going to address the whole action approach? Because Capcom has been moving in a direction where they want Resident Evil to go back to its roots. stick with what the series actually does well, which is survival horror. Resident Evil 4, again, as great as it is technically responsible for being the game that shifted the series in a more action-oriented direction, and that's how we got the messy Resident Evil 5 and the just absolutely abhorrent Resident Evil 6. We don't want to go back to that for Resident Evil. So how are they going to address the action elements and everything without going overboard? That's something that they have to address. And this is probably part of the reason why Capcom changed the direction and delayed the game. So some of these things are, what the development team has to actually work out and put some serious thought into before they even show like a debut trailer. If they're looking to course correct, provide a different flavor of Resident Evil 4, so to speak. If clearly that's the direction that they have chosen to go in, I'm in full support of it. Division 1, if they can bring, retain the tone of the original game and just introduce new ideas, incorporate new ideas, and address issues with the original at the same time, then, this could be a worthwhile remake for this legendary game. So that's really my thoughts on it. I'm in support of the change. They've delayed it a year, so they got plenty of time to think about exactly what they want to do. Yeah, a remake definitely should, retain the tone and everything of the original without changing too much, like with the Final Fantasy VII remake. I felt that that particular game changed too much from the original. But like I said, I'm in full support of changing things from the original, as long as it improves over what the issues were with the original. And obviously, they're definitely going to update basic things like being able to move while you're aiming at enemies. Something like that is a no-brainer. So that's my thoughts on this situation. I'm in support of it, and yeah, I hope that Capcom doesn't fuck this up, and that this remake is something that's going to be worth playing when it's finally revealed, which will be in I assume in 2023.